We were trying to find something, where we could share our story, we could share important industry news. The success for us looked like just being able to get it completed, get it to be able to say, the actual message that we wanted to get out, and being able to distribute that. So, Jellypod has that. It's honestly just the most simple process ever to get this thing created. I would say Jellypod is the complete package for creating a podcast, whether it's for yourself or your company.
Hi, everybody. Today I have Kegan Rivers with me, and I'm so excited for this conversation. First of all, I wanted to ask, what was an unexpected surprise from using Jellypod?
I think the clarity of the voices and the creative component of being able to tailor the voices of the host. That's just something that I look at a lot of different platforms and I just didn't see that anywhere else.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you so much for that. And now we're going to go into the meat of the talk and we're going to jump right in. So rewinding, tell the audience a bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Kegan Rivers. I'm the SVP of Marketing at a renewable energy company called Three Rivers Energy Partners. We focus on creating renewable natural gas and a natural fertilizer from organic waste streams, primarily from industrial organic waste streams. And my job here is really to move our brand forward in a really rapidly changing industry. The renewable energy space is just changing constantly and growing so quickly, and we're right there growing with it.
Amazing. And can you tell us like a bit more? So, I just want I want the audience to know, because it's such a cool process that you do. So give a little bit more, at a very high level about the mechanic of the renewable energy and how that all works.
Sure. Yeah. So we basically take organic waste streams from industries, that have a large homogeneous feedstock. So a large, consistent feedstock. We put it into anaerobic digesters. And from there, it's kind of like a big stomach, right? It uses bacteria to break that down, and it breaks it down into two things, really. It will break it down into biogas that we then refine and put into a pipeline, and it's used as a renewable natural gas. And then the other component of that is the leftover solids and liquids from that digestion process actually are natural fertilizer. So we work with some major distilleries to do this. And, a lot of the leftover material for that fertilizer is actually, all the things that were used to produce like a whiskey. So it's everything that was taken from the ground, then being replaced back. So it's really like a circular economy, just full circle solution to, not just create a renewable energy, but also to give back to the environment that we were taking from to create other products.
So cool. And just for the audience's sake, Three Rivers Energy works with like Jim Beam, Jack Daniels. So, all
right.
brands that so many people I'm sure know or potentially even have in their kitchen or living room or what have you. But I just think it's so awesome that you're taking this waste, you're making two great things out of it. Like it's like, you think of recycling as, throwing an aluminum can into a blue bin, but not into this like really cool, true, repurposing of waste into something so much better. So cool. Prior to finding Jellypod, what were you trying to accomplish? Your charter is to grow the brand. What did that look like prior to finding Jellypod?
Really, we're kind of stuck in a spot because we're still a small company and we're growing really quickly, but we're a small team right now. And, to get someone's attention is really difficult today, especially with a small team, right? Like a big part of what we do is educating our prospects and clients. So we want them to understand exactly what we're doing, how we fit into the energy transition. And that's a difficult thing to do when we're talking about like trying to share a traditional like web article or that kind of thing. People just don't have time for it. They don't have the attention span for it. And video is just a huge time suck, right? That's a really difficult thing to take on in terms of marketing and creating enough video content to do that. So we were trying to find something, where we could share our story, we could share important industry news, and really just educate about the process and where the industry is going, and make sure that everybody understands where that lies. And so that's kind of where we were at when we were looking at doing a podcast.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense. So blogs are not being read as much, so it's difficult to reach people that way. Video is a lot to ask for, both from the consumer and from the producer side. It's a lot of work with a small team. Makes sense. So podcasts kind of thread the needle. Very cool. Was there a specific moment? Like, I understand the big picture of why that was important to you, but was there a specific moment where you heard something, you saw something, and you were like, "Ooh, we need a podcast"?
Yeah, I mean, being in marketing, I'm constantly looking at all the new AI developments and kind of poking around there everywhere. And we obviously use some other components in image generation or copy generation, and we've kind of played around with that. And we were starting to use it in research, and we had an internal newsletter that was just on our industry. And we kind of came to the conclusion that this would be really helpful information to share externally. And we started to do that and kind of realized, okay, it's hard. It's a lot of information, even when we're condensing it into like really bite-sized chunks. Today people will read a headline and then go, right? So like, how can we move forward and get people to actually consume this content? It's super helpful. And it's not even always at the fault of the audience. It's just they don't have time, right? So we started to see some things with a handful of other platforms we're doing and tried to explore. And, we heard about some of the other platforms, and then just went from there and tried to play around with all of them before we landed here.
Very cool. What options did you consider? What did you play around with?
I think we played around with most of the major ones. I mean, Notebook was the first one, and that was really good, but there was just no editing, right? And it made sense to do, and there was some questionable stuff around, sharing it and that type of thing. So we explored a handful of the other ones too, and they were almost there. And then when we landed on Jellypod, I mean, it basically just hit all the marks that we needed. It hit, we could customize the voices, the hosts. That was huge for us. Editing the script and live editing the script was massive. That was probably the biggest component for us, because a lot of the other generations that we saw was like, okay, here's a workaround to how you can get it to say this or do that. And Jellypod is just right in there. You can, and I mean, it was different when we first started using it, but now we can regenerate just that individual line of text, which is super convenient. That really gets us able to dial in and get the correct information out there. And it's just really helpful that way.
Amazing. Yeah. Accuracy and host customization, two big things that, we're always banging our drum about. We think those are two critical parts of any high quality podcast, whether it be traditional or AI. So we definitely wanted to make sure that was represented in our product. When you were going through the very first run and you were evaluating it, and, you mentioned that you looked at different other tools. What did success look like when you were testing out Jellypod?
I think success for us looked like just being able to get it completed, get it to be able to say, the actual message that we wanted to get out, and being able to distribute that. So, I mean, Jellypod has that distribution that, it creates the RSS feed and the web page, and it kicks it out to whatever platforms we hook it up to. I mean, it basically took all of the busy work out for us, which, I mean, we've got 1 to 2 people working on this thing at a time. So without that, we just couldn't do it, right? We'd be stuck doing the traditional, web articles and that type of thing. So this really just put us a step ahead, and it's something that we just wouldn't be able to do otherwise, to be honest.
Amazing. Yeah, we're trying to, we've always said this a bunch, that there are so many cool stories, trapped in people's heads, and there's just not enough time to get it out into the world. And converting, industrial waste through anaerobic processors into natural fertilizer and natural gas is definitely one of those things that I feel like would get lost. So we're so happy to be doing that. Was there a favorite episode of yours, the particular story or little tidbit that you really liked sharing through Jellypod?
We do weekly episodes. So every Tuesday we knock out a new episode or publish a new episode. I think one of my favorite ones is probably last week's Small Grids, Big Impact. And it's really just about getting into microgrids and that type of thing. And it doesn't even actually have that much to do with our anaerobic digesters, but that's one of the things that we do, is try to cover everything that's happening in our industry. just to educate our audience, to let them know what's going on. And that's something that is becoming a forefront of all the renewable energy. And it's just really interesting.
It's a cool thing. That topic is just, it's not exactly what you do, but it's a little bit upstream of it. It's almost the why behind it. I don't know enough about this, but I would intuit that a lot of industrial waste is produced in areas that are sort of off grid, or at least they're far from population centers where there's been less grid investment. And so by being able to convert that back into natural gas, you're creating a power source much closer to these, so by creating a microgrid, you're almost powering microgrids, or can be. Very cool. How exactly does Jellypod help you, make the average episode? Just can you walk us through like a typical day in the life?
The platform's just really easy to use. I mean, we do a little bit of research on our own to pull some source materials like new press releases and things that are happening in the industry. And we're able to kind of just feed that in and let it generate an outline for us. And from there, we just go right into letting it generate a script, and then we customize that script and insert our own insights. I mean, it's honestly just the most simple process ever to get this thing created. But yeah, so it basically plug it full of sources, let it generate the outline, review that. And I don't know if I've maybe hardly ever had to do much editing in terms of what that outline comes up with. And then it generates a script, and then I run the audio and listen to it and tweak it on the go. And like kind of like what I said before, being able to tweak, the individual lines from the host is super helpful, and being able to regenerate that and just listen right back to it right then is just tremendously helpful.
Amazing. Were there any unexpected benefits? I mean, you've been around for a while, so you've seen it evolve. It's kind of hard to ask the question because there's probably unexpected benefits. I'm guessing the partial regens were, a desperately wanted, but also unexpected thing when it came out. Well, does that spark anything? Unexpected benefits?
Well, I mean, you guys reached out with a survey a while back when I think we were only a few episodes in. And I think I gave you guys a laundry list of things that I wanted to see. And I feel like that was one of the things. So that already got made. Analytics that got pumped out right away. There's a handful of other things in there that I believe you guys just knocked out too. So it's nice to know that you guys are evolving and listening with it. And it's cool to see that happening so quickly.
And the way you crafted your response, you were so thoughtful. And you had these 3 major bullets, and you immediately, I feel like you really liked the platform back then, and you offered to help us out with something, but, we really wanted to deliver a little bit more before asking you to hop on. But so glad that we finally got around to getting you on. So that is fantastic. What about Jellypod, won you over? Was there a big moment in this whole flow? Was it maybe the script editing where you were like, that's it?
I think the script editing honestly was it. So the draw in was the customization of the hosts and being able to say like, okay, this is host. So we have Alex and Emily are our hosts, right? And be able to give them a background and kind of generate, how they act and what they are was really cool and super unique to what we were seeing. And then, so that drew us in. We're like, okay, this is neat. And then getting in and being like, oh, this is where we can actually edit the script and, do all the tweaks we need to, because so many of the other things, but like I said before, it's just not worth, there just isn't the time to do all the workarounds to try and get something to say what you want it to, when you can just be like, no, they just need to say this right here, swap it out, and it's done. And it's really just as simple as that. And that was definitely the win over. It again, the full way through, because then you had distribution, right? That was something I was just anticipating having to figure out on my own and deal with. And it was just right there, plugged in, click of a button. So
amazing. Well, I guess my final question that I ask everybody is, if you were to describe Jellypod to a friend in a single sentence, what would you say?
I would say Jellypod is the complete package for creating a podcast, whether it's for yourself or your company.
Thank you so much, Kegan. Really appreciate you hopping on. So excited to see, all the podcasts that you create. You have an incredible mission, and I hope more people hear about your company, 3 Rivers Energy Partners. Everyone watching this, check them out. Super cool.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See ya.